Hello, everybody. We're so happy to join you here at YALLWEST, even though it's another stupid computer screen. I hope you can feel our love for you and welcome to this amazing event. We have this is my favorite because this is where you guys get to hear about us when we were in middle school, high school, teenagers, and what we were writing, what we were into, what we were thinking about that time. There is a Q&A. Please enter your questions for us, and we'll try to get to those at the end. First, to introduce us all, we're actually going to introduce ourselves as we read to you a little bit of something that we wrote when we were younger. And I will start it off. Mine is very short. There I am when I was 13. Oh my gosh, that's so adorable. That is me in 8th grade. And I actually have a series of graphic novels that are memoirs about myself in my younger years, Real Friends and Best Friends. And the third book in the series comes out in August. It's called Friends Forever, and that's the cover. And it's about me in 8th grade. And there is a part in it where I had my very first slow dance. And this guy, he went to a different school because I went to my friend's school. I went to a dance and I had my first slow dance. And I was crushing on him so hard that I went home afterwards and I wrote an ode to him in my journal. And I'm going to read to you that right now.
Yes.
I changed his name in the book to Anthony because I'm protecting the innocent. And he was so innocent. He was so lovely. Ode to Anthony. I sit and stare, the window pane stained with my breath, the frozen world outside, asleep in thy absence. Yes, thy. That is the word I chose, as though you were the Lord in thy absence. My Lord himself.
Capital He.
Capital He.
Yeah.
No matter how much I cry or how much I call, you do not appear. And so I wait.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's beautiful.
So, thank
That was
you.
beautiful.
You're breaking my heart.
Right? He never called.
The longing. Never called.
It was so sincere. He
So
was truly a lovely guy. He was such a lovely guy. He was just like way out of my league.
Oh,
But,
thy
you
heart
know-
is broken.
Wait till you read the book, Lisi. There's so much more.
I can't
But,
wait.
you know, my journal was like a safe place. I had so many big emotions. And I lived in a house where it was shameful to express emotions. You're supposed to hold them all in. And I just couldn't. And so my journal and also my fiction writing was a place where I could get those out. So let's move on next to Robbie. And when you all introduce yourselves, if you just make sure you tell everybody your name and mention what your next book or your most recent book is, and then read your piece. So here's Robbie.
Hello. Oh man, that's
Aw.
me. Very, very awkward 7th grade Robbie Couch. And I don't know. Oh yes, I'm the author of The Sky Blues, which is my debut book, and I'm super, super stoked about it. It came out a couple weeks ago. But yes, so my book that I'm going to read to you, it's only a few pages. I wrote in the 4th grade. So I was a little bit younger than probably a lot of people watching, maybe. But it means a lot to me because it was the first book that I actually wrote, and I loved doing it. I had so much fun doing it. I think I was 10 years old, and I got an A on it, and I felt so cool, and something clicked inside of my head, and I thought, this is something that's so fun to do. Apparently, I'm not bad at it. So it kind of kicked off my love of storytelling and writing. So it was a pretty big moment for me, even though I was just 10 years old. It was called When the Seaweed Was Smiling. And yes, I illustrated it, so I will be showing pictures. And it's also cool, really quickly, I read it for the first time. There was a note inside on April 23rd, 1999. So we were just one day off of the 22nd anniversary, I believe, of the day that I introduced this book to the world. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, so
Wow.
When the Seaweed Was Smiling. I know, right? It was a warm summer morning. Can you guys see it okay? I'll try to make this work. It was a warm summer morning. My family and I packed up our swimming suits and towels and drove down to Walled Lake. That's Walled Lake, Michigan, outside of Detroit. I always liked it down there at Walled Lake. It has fish swimming in the water. It has boats and jet skis bouncing on the big blue waves. Don't forget the huge houses that line the shore. It's a great place. There we were, my cousins, and then I went through every single one of my cousins. Stephanie, Ryan, Chris, Tori, Stacey, Eileen, Marilyn, Uncle Tom, Jerry, my mom, my dad, sister Melanie, and me. Ryan did one of those swan dives off the dock. Then I remembered my fear of seaweed. Don't laugh, I was probably 7. I just didn't like the feeling of slimy sea plants slithering on my legs. And I still don't. I still hate seaweed. Come on in, Rob, Uncle Gary yelled. Robbie's afraid of seaweed, blabbermouth Melanie had to say. Melanie was my sister. I did not do a very flattering photo of Melanie, sorry.
I love the speech bubble, though. It's like...
Yes, very vivid. I ran up to the house, put my suit on, and ran back down to the water. I saw the seaweed waving back and forth in the water. A shock of fear came down my body. I closed my eyes and jumped. The baby finally did it, Melanie teased. Be quiet, I said back angrily. I walked out deeper and deeper. Chills slithered down my body. I could feel the seaweed grabbing my legs. Forms of ghostly faces stared up at me from the seaweed. I stopped dead in my tracks. And that's me very hyperbolic, being drowned by the seaweed. Yes, exactly. Oh, I screamed as I got up. It was all a dream. At least the part with the seaweed. Robbie, come on, let's go swimming. It was Stephanie. So I was back in case you missed it, I was back at Walled Lake again. I did what she said and got off the family room couch, put my suit on, and went down to the lake. Ryan did a swan dive. Uncle Gary asked me to come in as he floated on his back. Huh? I thought. I looked out into the lake, seeing smiling seaweed faces looking back at me. So thank you all so much for listening. But yeah, it was a big moment for me to have this book that I love doing. And again, I apparently wasn't too bad at it when I was 10. So it was a cool aha moment for me. Yes.
You brought that full circle. Like you repeated your themes and everything.
I know. I love you did the whole, it was just a dream thing, but then was it? You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It was subversive. I mean, it was no ode to Anthony, but you know. That was great, Robbie. All right, Laekan, are you ready?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Laekan Zea Kemp. There's a few photos of me. Was rarely caught without a headband in middle school. I don't really have any funny stories about these two pictures. I have no recollection of them being taken. It was funny this week having my mom rummage through storage to try to find some photos for this event. And she just kept sending me like glamour shot after glamour shot. And I was like, no, it has to capture like middle school awkwardness. And she tried to be like, well, you didn't have an awkward phase in middle school, which obviously we just saw evidence that that is not true. So yeah, middle school for me was a very transformative time. I tried on a lot of different identities, tried out a lot of different activities, was involved in tons of clubs. But the one thing that I was really good at was writing, which is what I ended up, discovering throughout that time period. Before I share a piece though from my 8th grade English class, I'll talk about my debut novel, which is Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet, and it came out a few weeks ago on April 6th from Little Brown Young Readers. It's a young adult contemporary romance, and it's about the power of food, family, first love, and finding where you belong, set in a Mexican restaurant that is the heart of a fiercely loyal Chicana community. And the piece that I'm going to share today is a poem that I wrote in 8th grade, and it won me some kind of contest and ended up being printed in like a book of poetry, which was really exciting for me. During that time, I was highly motivated by praise from teachers. I was sort of a brown noser. I really liked making my teachers proud. And so it was kind of twofold. I discovered that I was good at something and I enjoyed something. And also when I excelled at it, it got me attention and praise from teachers, which I really loved. So this poem is called The American Dream. And when I reread it for the first time a couple of days ago, after 20 years of not having seen it, I immediately was like, oh yeah, I was listening to a lot of Everclear at the time. So you're going to hear that in this poem. Okay, so The American Dream by Laekan Kemp. Born in an American life, born with an American dream. Married an American wife.
Maintain. You got this.
But life wasn't as good as it seemed. And here's where it takes a turn. They were living in the shadows of nightmares, and the clouds began to thicken and swell, and their tears began to fall like the raindrops, beating on the rooftops to hell.
Whoa, we just went to hell.
Dark.
But the
got
worst,
dark so fast.
I know. But the
Yeah.
worst thing in the night was the silence, so cold and unforgiving and sad. It would crawl inside your heart when you're sleeping and claw out everything in you but the bad. So in the morning, when the sun was still hiding and the moon was crying out for a friend, he would still be the same old person, as if too sure his life would never find end.
Oh,
Wow.
Couldn't tell you what it's about.
It feels deep.
Mhm.
Yeah. But that, I feel like that abrupt shift in the middle of the poem perfectly encapsulates what middle school was like for me.
Yes,
If that gives you any indication.
Mhm.
I felt it. I did. Oh man.
Oof. It needs a
Oh.
beat though. It needs like a beat and some
Yeah.
guitars, you know.
Yeah. And can anybody give us a mouth beat? And
Oh man.
Oh, I'm not
Nope.
going to go through it again.
No. Not me. But you went for
Someone
the
can
rhyme.
Someone
Like-
can take this recording and remix it and do whatever they would like with
You're
it.
gonna find it on this video on Twitch. I mean,
Yeah.
not Twitch.
On
TikTok. is what
TikTok,
I'm
it'll
trying
just
to
be-
say.
TikTok. That's fine. Make me go viral on TikTok. I
Boomer.
would love that.
All right, Lisi, what do you got?
okay. Hello, I'm Lisi Harrison, and okay. Well, my latest book is girl stuff. I don't know if you shelf will fall. So that's me, and those two teeth were missing probably for 4 years,
Wow.
which I think shaped my personality. Unlike Laekan, I was despised by most of my teachers. I was just a goofball and I couldn't really focus. And my first brush with writing was when a 5th grade teacher asked me to write a musical for the class because she was like, you don't focus on anything. I don't know what your thing is, but you seem to be quite dramatic. So maybe you should write a musical for the grade. And I was hooked, baby. So that's what I did. Unfortunately, I can't find that musical, but I was able to find also a poem I wrote. Okay, this was a poem I wrote about a perfect mother. My rhythm, my rhyming, like there's no iambic pentameter happening here, so beware. The ideal mother should contain that certain special touch to heal the pain. The perfect mother should always be around to fight off the bullies that always change her daughter's appearance with a single pound. A great type of mother will always give you a hug, even after she finds you barfed on the new shag rug. You can tell it was in the 70s with that shag rug.
Wow.
Here's the real kicker. Wait for it. The kind of mother who has a heart, even when you're bad, is the type who will take the strap out of the hand of your dad.
Oh,
Yeah.
Whoa.
Right?
Dude.
I don't remember being beaten,
Intense.
but apparently,
whoa.
I think that was
Wow.
me. Wait a mic drop on that one. So
I
there
know,
you
right?
go. That was, yeah.
So was
You're
your mom
welcome.
that kind of mother? I mean, barring the final surprise
I mean,
line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just threw in like a little plot twist there. My mom was great. So was my dad. So this is just fiction, people, fiction.
You had a great
We're not
imagination.
starting-
But yeah, I was
Here.
going through my garage. I just moved, so I couldn't find any of my, 50 plus journals to read from. But I did find this poem, and it was the only thing I could access in all the boxes. And I was shocked when I read it. I don't know what inspired this, but clearly, yeah.
Wow.
think I brought down the house with that one.
It's
You're
intense,
welcome.
man.
A lot of dark twists in our younger selves.
Yeah. I had a dark side.
Right.
Well,
Astrid,
you're welcome. Thank you.
What do you got? Thank you, Lisi. So what have you got, Astrid?
Oh, I've got a very different
we need
kind
a
of
trigger
story.
warning before you read.
I don't think so. So yes, I'm Astrid Scholte, author of Four Dead Queens and The Vanishing Deep, which this one came out 2020 and 2019. So I write science fiction and fantasy and a blend of all those in between. And I think you'll kind of pick that up a little bit in my writing. It's a very different kind of story. I actually wanted to read my novel that I wrote at 14, which I thought I would get published with before I turned 18. I was very ambitious.
Wait, you wrote a novel when you were 14?
I did. However, I
God.
password protected it, and I cannot remember that password.
What?
Oh no!
Those words
Oh my
are
gosh.
gone forever. But hopefully this wonderful story will make up for it, which was written when I was in grade 8. We don't have middle school and senior in or high school in Australia. We just call it year 7, 8, 9, 10. But I was 13 when I wrote this, so I hope you enjoy.
So can I just ask you, when you're 13, what are you in a school with? What other ages are in the same school? With you?
So from 12 through to 18. So we just call it high school.
Oh, so middle. So you would have our equivalent of middle school and high school all together.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's right. So my story is called It's a Doc Martens Life. I was sitting there on the shelf, looking stunning as always. My purple and blue marble surface had just been polished and gleamed brightly. My partner sat raised on a platform next to me. My black laces were tied neatly in a bow, while the rest was evenly hanging by my side. It had been a long time since my partner and I had been tried on. The new model was next to me, and it was taking all our customers with its flashy, glittery laces. I envied her. A customer walked in, sifting through the box of cheap boots. She looked a bit suspicious, but I stood proudly, making myself as noticeable as possible, since we hadn't been tried on in ages. She walked over, lifted us up. A surge of excitement filled me, but something in the back of my mind kept telling me that something was wrong with her. I ignored it. She placed us on the floor and slipped her foot inside. "Hi," I said to her left foot. "Hello, feeling cramped at all?" I asked. "No, quite snug in here." "Not too snug, I hope." "No, it's perfect. I like it." Outside, I heard a discussion between the customer and the shop assistant. All was going well. I wondered how my partner was going with the right foot. "What is your name?" I asked, continuing the conversation. "Larry, the left foot. You?" "I'm Docrina, and my partner is Martina. It's nice to meet you. I hope we will be seeing a lot of each other." "Me too." "Bye," I called as I was pulled off Larry. We were placed in a dark box with wrapping. "This is it," I cried happily. "We are going to be bought. Finally, the day has come. Sun beaming on our tongues, puddles filling our insides with cool water, brass sticking onto our black soles, and sticks massaging our itches as we walk by. Oh, the wonder of it all. Yeah, whatever," Martina snorted. "Oh, you'll see. It'll be great." After a few minutes of being thrown around in our box, we finally came to a stop. We lifted our lid cautiously and peeped outside. "All clear," I said, jumping out. Martina followed. We looked around. We were in a small, dark, musty cupboard next to some old shoes with missing soles. "Hello, my friends. Who are you?" I asked the old shoes. There was no answer. "Hello?" I tried again. They stared blankly at the door. That's interesting." "Yeah, I wonder what's wrong with them," Martina pondered. "Asleep?" I suggested. "Yeah, probably." The door was flung open suddenly. "Aha, I got you now," a new owner cackled. "Oh no, she's a shoe catcher. I knew it was too good to be true," I cried. That's what's wrong with the other shoes," Martina reported. "Yes, you are right. I've come to suck the soul out of you. Shoes should have no feelings," she yelled.
Nice.
"Run," Martina shrieked.
Wow.
We ran straight under her legs and out of the cupboard and into a lab. "No," she screamed in rage. "Come back." "Not likely," I said, running as fast as I could. We turned out of the lab, and with a screech, our soles scraped across the wooden floor. "Out the door," I panted. "Out the front door," Martina agreed. "Where is the door?" I asked. "How should I know?" "This way," I said, thumping down the stairs. "Oh, no, you don't," the catcher said, jumping in front of us with the net. "Geronimo," I cried as I leapt over the stair rail. "Yeehaw," Martina laughed as she followed. Thump, we landed on the carpet. The catcher chased after us with the vacuum cleaner on high. No, I moaned as I was getting sucked backwards towards the mouth of the vacuum. Give me your shoelace, Martina called, turning around. I lassoed my lace towards her. Martina missed it by centimeters. I threw it again. This time she caught it by a thread. She pulled me towards her. Thank you, I sobbed with relief. I don't know how these shoes are being so emotive and sobbing, but anyway.
They have tongues.
They have tongues.
Nice.
And souls, too.
That's true.
Come on, she said impatiently. We thumped down this hallway towards where we thought the front door might be. To our dismay, we found ourselves in a kitchen with no escape. The catcher closed in on us. Murderer, I accused. Me? You're just shoes. Just shoes, eh? I echoed. Oh no, here we go, Martina sighed. We're not just shoes. We're Doc Martens, I started my speech. Boots with a difference. Elegant yet strong and well built. We suit any occasion, a party, walking in the bush, and just plain everyday use. We are comfortable. We are beautiful. We are... Enough, the catcher interrupted. I don't care. Same here, Martina chimed in. I gave her a dirty look. I hate to burst your bubble, but we are no different from a normal shoe. But still, I think we deserve to live. Well, I don't, the catcher replied, coming at us with the weird contraption. Uh-oh. We looked around for a possible escape and found an open window. Jump, I ordered Martina. We jumped onto the desk and out the window and onto the ground. Yes, we celebrated. Now, where are we going to live? She asked. I have an idea as I saw another girl walk past. Follow me. We bounded over to the bushes near the girl and then slid out in front of her without noticing. Well, 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 what do we have here? Doc Martens. I've always wanted a pair, she said, picking us up. You two might fit me. We're saved, I laughed quietly. Yeah, let's just not let her know we can talk. Good idea. She knelt down and put us on. Hello, what is your name? I asked the left foot. Lauren, you? Docrino. Nice to meet you. I was going to say the same thing. I laughed. I think I'm going to like it here.
Aww. It's like Toy Story, but with shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
Clearly
a lot
I was
of
obsessed.
questions. But
Yeah.
maybe I should wait
I
for the
did too.
Netflix special that will be sponsored by Doc Martens. There was a very passionate speech in there that they might want to use as in an advert, I think.
I mean, yeah, the sales pitch part was just like,
yeah.
So you really meant that,
really
you know?
Wanted a pair of Doc Martens. The funny thing is I never
That
got
came
one.
through.
So,
Oh no.
you know, I have this like longing in my heart for a pair, and everyone was wearing them back in the day, and clearly I felt left out, and so I don't know who I
What
was
year
trying to
was
convince.
this?
So this would have been 98.
I did have a
Yeah.
pair of Doc Martens in the 90s. Yeah.
You're rubbing it in now, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's just mean, Shannon.
Well, I heard they were waterproof, and then I wore them in the rain, and my socks got wet. So it was a little bit of a
It's a
letdown.
lie.
So maybe you got lucky by not having a pair.
Maybe, or maybe I should write a sequel.
Sequel.
I vote sequel.
Sequel.
That's awesome. Thank you, Astrid. All right, David, what do you have for us?
I'm David. You guys know me from Frankly in Love. That was my debut. And Astrid, we met briefly at Penguin Random House in New York as you were doing your throne shoot. For Four Dead Queens. Remember that? And yeah, so my book was Frankly in Love. The follow-up was Super Fake Love Song, which came out sometime during pandemic. So it could have been yesterday, it could have been last year, who knows? And my next book is actually an adult book. It's a thriller about the internet, so it's not really appropriate to talk about, I guess, but that's the cover. It's called Version Zero. It's coming out in May.
I love it.
And it's not for kids, I guess. It's not really appropriate because a lot of people die in it. It's really
Now
dark.
every teenager on here is going to get that book.
They're going to want to read it.
Yes.
But anyway, that's my yearbook picture from middle school.
Look at you on the bottom row.
Which one?
Uh-huh.
Oh, there he is.
That's a nice circle. And yeah, middle school. I loved middle school so much. I don't know why. Like, it was me and my friend Ken Chris who we made this book together that I'm going to show you. But we were just excellent buddies. And like, I remember in 8th grade when we were about to go to high school, we sat on a wall and the sun was setting, and we're just like, I don't want to go to high school. Like, we have it so good, you know. And then we're going to go to this high school with literally 3,000 students, and we're going to be freshmen. You know, we're going to be like the little babies at the school. And we were really scared. We were nervous to do it. So I think this book we put together in like 7th grade or something. So I must have been 13 at the time. But I was also a latchkey kid. So during that time, writing was always my escape. I would go home. My parents would still be at work because they worked all the time because they're immigrants. And I would just journal and free write and just constantly just coming up with crazy stories and whatnot. And Ken was kind of the same way. And so we were like, dude, let's team up for a school project. And the result was the quest for Choco Pops, which I found in my garage last night. And I was like, or a couple nights ago, and I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot about this. But yeah, this is the title page, hand lettered.
Wow.
Meticulously.
Professional.
It really does.
All right, so here we go. Somewhere. I'm gonna have to look on my iPad because the interface here is covering it up.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Just gonna find it really quick. Sorry about that. Documents and
your map even has a little like compass. I'm so impressed.
Thank you.
Look at the 3D tiles.
And as I'm reading, I want you to pay close attention to what's happening with the television because it's kind of changing constantly. All right. So somewhere in another place at another time, there was a country. Next slide. In this country were 10 tribes. Next slide. Each tribe had a king, and each king had a throne. The better the throne looked, the more the people liked the king. One king named King Buchu had one of the best thrones. So did another named King Fapo. One day, the tribes decided to have a contest. This contest would prove which throne was the best. The winner would get a box of Choco Pops. King Fapo loved Choco Pops. All the tribes brought all their kings who brought all their thrones to the contest. The contest started. Many of the kings lost and had to leave. After a long time, King Buchu and King Fapo were the only ones left. The crowd had to decide which throne was the best. They thought and thought. Soon, they came up with a winner. King Buchu won!
Yay.
King Fapo was very mad. He lost the contest. Worst of all, he lost his Choco Pops. He became so angry that he lost his temper and smashed his throne to pieces. He became even madder and started a war with King Buchu.
No!
I know, it's terrible. King Buchu was afraid of losing his beautiful throne. He was afraid of losing his beautiful Choco Pops. King Buchu left the contest carrying his throne on his back. King Buchu went into his kingdom. He found a grass hut. He hid his Choco Pops and the throne in the grass hut. King Buchu quickly ran away. Soon, King Fapo and his guards saw the grass hut. King Fapo shouted, "Burn it! Burn the hut! Burn the whole kingdom!" Sorry, I'm futzing with my iPad here. The guards burned the hut. They also burned the throne and the Choco Pops that were hidden in it.
Not the Choco Pops.
I know, it's a tragedy. After burning the hut, King Fapo burned the whole kingdom. I was reading this to my daughter, and she's like, "But everyone in the kingdom's okay, right?" And I was like, "Sure, yes. King Fapo went back to his kingdom. A few days later, King Fapo found out that he burned the beautiful throne and the beautiful Choco Pops when he burned the grass hut. King Fapo was very angry. He had made a terrible mistake. He became so angry that he lost his temper. He started a war with himself and burned his own kingdom. The moral of this story is don't panic or never store thrones in a grass house. But
it was a pun.
It was a pun.
The whole time.
Super dumb.
I just think it all would have gone better if there had been queens. That's just my thought.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Throw in a few queens and they would be like, "Why are we doing this?"
Yeah, what is this? What's this contest we're holding? Why don't we just? There's plenty of Choco Pops to go around for everybody.
Why don't we just sit?
Is that a
Choco
real
Puffs and
thing?
chat?
What?
Choco Pops?
I have
Is
no
that
idea.
a real product?
I don't think so. I think we
There's
just made it
Choco
up.
It should be.
There's a cereal called Choco Puffs, right?
Cocoa Puffs.
Cocoa Puffs. That's what
Cocoa
it is.
Puffs.
Oh right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cocoa
The sort of
Puffs.
bloated cousin to Cocoa Pebbles,
Yes.
which
Fruity
I actually
Pebbles.
prefer. When I want sugar for breakfast, I
There
have
is a Cocoa Pebbles too. Yeah. Yeah.
There is?
Yeah.
Wow, there are a
Cocoa
lot of
Pebbles and
cereal
Fruity
types.
Pebbles. Yes.
Wow.
Oh
Haven't been
yes.
out in a while.
I know. It's. I've got 4 children, so you know that's the
right,
big
you have 4
treat.
kids.
Yes, I know. It's insane.
God bless you.
I was thinking about you when you were showing your adult cover and saying, you know, it's probably not appropriate for younger readers and how what effect that will have. I was on tour with Libba Bray. Do you guys know Libba Bray?
Of course, yeah.
YA writer.
Mhm.
And we did a tour, and she had a YA, and I had a middle grade that had come out. We went and did a school event at a school that was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And the librarian got in front of the kids and said, okay, 7th and 8th graders, you can buy any book you want. But 6th graders, you can only get Shannon Hale's unless you have parental permission to buy Libba Bray's. Because you can't, you don't have, if you're under this age, you can't read because there's some material in there that would not be appropriate for younger readers. But anybody can read Shannon's because she's never written an inappropriate word in her life. You'll never guess what the response was.
That's a
Guess how
brilliant
many
marketing
7th and 8th
strategy.
graders came for my book. And guess how the 6th graders felt about it? They were like, oh, we have to get this stupid
like,
baby book.
Good. They go bunch of babies in diapers. Where?
I was like, dude, what was that? It was like the worst endorsement I'd ever gotten.
Let's see.
I remember the librarian's name. I'll tell you later. And that happened like 15 years ago. And
We'll get her. We'll get her. It's not too late.
It was
Never
a man.
forget.
It was a man. Anyway, we have so many great questions. Before we get to the questions, I just the questions coming in from the audience. Thank you. Keep sending them. But I would love to hear from you guys what you were super into when you were a teenager, whether middle school, high school, you know, year 8, year 8 to year 12. I'm trying to be inclusive, Astrid, and I just sound dumb. Anyway, as you're in teen years, like, what kind of posters would you put up on your wall? What music were you listening to? What were you just like super obsessed with?
Should I start? Are we going to?
Oh, you know what?
Jump in.
Oh,
I
Just
was
jump
working
in.
pretty well. So yeah, I'm not going to, I don't think I need to call. If you have an idea, just
Okay.
go for it.
Well, mine is sort of a full circle moment because I was super, super into Mortal Kombat when I was in middle and high school. And I loved Scorpion. Yeah, I loved like the Scorpion Sub-Zero feud. And I would like I was always embarrassed to like tell other kids at school because I thought it was like kind of dorky, but I loved making like home videos with my other friends who were really into Mortal Kombat. So there was many like karate videos at home, me trying to like do the get over here thing, like with the snake shooting on a scorpion's hand. Yeah.
Finish him.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I was also a big boy band person, like low key. Again, kind of embarrassed to show it, but I loved NSYNC. I loved Britney. I had all the CDs. So I was kind of all over the place. I had like my Mortal Kombat days and then my Britney Spears days. So I was kind of all across the spectrum.
Oh man, that's so
I
cool.
think they work together. I mean, Brittany, you know, she's kind of Mortal Kombat, you know.
It's true.
There's a
She'd
vibe
be a good
there.
warrior.
I can see him
Yeah.
fighting on stage, ripping out spines. You know.
That's true. That's true.
Oh my gosh, we only have like 5 minutes left. All right,
What?
let's just do
Oh,
like,
wow.
I know, I went so fast. Let's do like rapid fire. What were you guys into? Like I was way into theater. I did a lot of theater.
Same. Musical, Grease. I was into Grease, which like, I love that Robbie was into, you know, NSYNC. I was like working at MTV when you were probably watching TRL, which just like
I
shows
love it.
a little bit of an age difference. But yes, I was into Grease, and shows were in color back then. We were very excited about that. Talkies. Yes, that's my
So I read
loved-
the Lord of the Rings series in elementary school and loved the books. And the movies actually came out while I was in middle school, which started a very intense obsession with Orlando Bloom. So I had posters of him on my wall. I had a pillow with his face on it.
Yes.
Yeah, my best friend and I would
I love it.
pirate the movies that he'd been in that had only been released in the UK, and then we'd watch them over and over. And then also certain video games. Like I was really into Spyro and The Sims.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I like to do in my free time.
Love it. What about you, Astrid?
Cool.
I loved anything science fiction. So that was mostly what I read and what I watched. I was a huge Animorphs fan. Loved those. I did a lot of fan art for Animorphs and fan fiction for Animorphs. And then later in high school, it was all about Farscape. And I had that all over my cupboards. Any posters and pictures.
Wow.
And I did fan fiction for that as well. And drawings.
I love it. What were you into, David?
God, what was I into? I was into programming my computer, like making little games and things. Always in BASIC. Like I never got really farther than that. It was only years later that I learned like real programming languages, but yeah, I would make little games. And for some reason I was really into like old music, you know? I was into like the blues and stuff like that. It was an odd, I don't know, I'm not sure why. And my friend was really into kind of old hokey music too. It's like we were born in the wrong decade or something. But yeah.
I love it. So we've got some questions coming in, and they're so good, and we only have a few more minutes. So let's kind of keep up the rapid fire pace, which feels real good. Do you think your younger self would be impressed with your life now? I love that question. I definitely would have. Didn't grow up in a place where women with careers was even really possible. You could be a teacher, but that was really all I saw in front of me, except for Kristen McAuliffe in the Challenger, and then she died, and that was like super traumatic for me. But so to have a career, to have been a writer, which I didn't know you could even do when I was a kid, and been doing this for 2 decades, I would lose my mind. I
would be so impressed because I had no idea that you could write for a living. I thought back in my day, you never met writers. You got a book jacket photo and that was it. And so it's so awesome now that we can actually meet, readers and do stuff like this to connect. I wish I had this when I was a kid. Then I could have, maybe gone a little more for it. Because I didn't even think it was a possibility to be a writer, even though I was obsessed with writing and I loved writing.
Yeah.
I feel like my younger self would probably be like, why aren't you rich yet? Like, she would have really high expectations. She might not be impressed with where I'm at now, only because she doesn't have the hindsight that I do about how difficult this journey has really been and how hard it is to, get a book published, even just to get an agent. So she would be wrong, but I think she would have really high expectations for me.
And the dream when we were younger that writers are probably fancy millionaires. Which
right.
Right. Didn't turn out to be the case.
That you could be published by 18, which was my goal, and I thought that was totally achievable.
So your younger self might be like, "Why did it take you so long?"
Yeah.
What's the hold up?
Yourself like, come on.
Exactly.
Okay, so one more question: did you ever have problems with thinking that anything you wrote was never good enough when you were younger? And any advice to get over it?
I still feel that way.
I know, we still do that. Yeah.
It never, I think the assumption is once you've made it, like, I don't know any writer, no matter how many books they've published and bestseller lists they've been on, who feels like, I've made it. Now I can lean back. You never reach that place.
No. Well, that's the thing about writing is it can always be better. It's like the endless tweak. It can always be better. It's this maddening thing. And people, I'm sure you guys have all been asked this a million times of, how long does it take you to write a book? And my answer is always when the publisher is like, where's the book? Because I could keep going forever. And it never ends. It never ends.
Self-doubt is always a thing, I feel like. And it's a constant battle to constantly like quiet those voices and tell yourself you got this, you're going to keep working. But self-doubt is always a thing.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would say too, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I always want to say, like, for me, I my advice would be to not share what you've written until you feel really good about it. Because when you are saying to somebody, read this, you're either going to get, oh my God, it's perfect, you're a genius, don't change a word, which is not true. Or you're going to get their opinion and it might be really discouraging. And so it's better to end up in a place where you feel somewhat confident, where you're like, if somebody gives me any feedback, it's not going to level me and take me out of the game. So wait is my thing. Like, I think everyone's always anxious to share the thing they wrote. And just spend some time with it by yourself for a while before you try to get other people's opinions.
That is really good. Any other advice on how you get over the self-doubt then or now?
I mean, my writing teacher at Emerson was like, he's a published author, and he was like, you just trade one level of anxiety for another, one level of rejection for another. So I used to get rejected by small publishing, like by small publications, and now I'm getting rejected by the New York Times. So I was like, thanks. That's a good way of putting it, I guess. But it's true. It's like it keeps you humble, and I totally agree. I never show anything until I feel really excellent about it. Because the more editors I have, either in my own head or outside, then the lower my confidence goes,
Totally.
And I feel like each book is a different journey as well. Like you might feel strong about certain elements, and then you start a new book and you might feel like you're starting from scratch again. So yeah, I think to remember that first drafts are meant to just be bad. They just got to exist. And the whole thing is, you can keep tweaking, keep making it better. And that's, that's part of the process. I think self-doubt is just, it comes with the territory.
One good thing, my wife, Nikki, Nicola, who she said Nicola Yoon, who wrote
dropping
this
David.
Book, she said your first draft is you telling the story to yourself. And so it's okay if it's, too wordy or stupid or whatever. It's you're just working out the story on paper, and it's part of the process.
I always say that a first draft is just shoveling sand into a box so that later I can build castles.
That's
not
a nice
get
one
too
too.
worried. You're just getting the material in there and not to get too sold in on it. But writing is a skill. I mean, if you think about like a sport or a musical instrument, you understand it takes time. It takes a lot of time of writing until you develop the skill to be able to sit down at the piano and play any tune you want. I think that we are almost out of time. I would love to go around, and if you guys have any last thoughts about anything whatsoever, anything you want to plug, anything you love that's not yours, I'm just going to end with, today is National Independent Bookstore Day. And if you want to be a writer, it is in your best interest to keep bookstores alive. If there's no independent bookstores, then all books are bought by one big conglomerate, and they decide what gets published and what doesn't. And we get a lot of voices and a lot more opportunity for more people to get published, and stories that might not be, widely read, but still have a need to be out there when there are independent bookstores that might pick up the smaller books. So the way we keep them alive is by shopping at our independent bookstores. That's my last thought. Does anybody else want to give a last thought?
I will say, if you are a queer person out there, we need your stories. We need more queer stories from across the spectrum. Gay, trans, bi, especially BIPOC folks. Keep writing. I want to hear your stories. Keep going.
Awesome. Thanks, Robbie.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're all in agreement with Robbie, and we're going to end on that note. Thank you to YALLWEST, all the volunteers, and everybody who makes this possible. We think you're amazing. Please keep writing.
Yay.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. What an incredible day. I don't know about you, but I had a great time.
It was awesome. And if you want to support our authors, please buy their books at bluebicyclebooks.com. You can even get signed books from the authors you saw today.
Thank you to everyone who participated today. Thank you to our viewers. Thank you to our teen ambassadors who helped plan this festival and make it something real and something for youth every year. And we're so happy to have them. Thank you to our staff, Rachel Stroll, who did our social media, as well as a lot of our off coordination. Thank you to Francis Oliver, who's done sponsors and tirelessly helped prepare all the scheduling for this festival. Thank you to Element Studios, who did the tech today. And thank you, Mel, Margie, and Rafi for making this festival.
Thank you,
Thank
Shane.
you, Shane, our producer, and thank you, author. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next year.
Woo! Bye. Happy Out West. See you online.